trail cameras are great for capturing local wildlife. However, sometimes they can capture things that people struggle to explain. Trail cameras work with the camera detecting motion. Once it does, it quickly snaps a photograph and then saves it, which means you can review it at another time. The owner of the camera will normally receive a notification once this happens. However, some owners have been left asking questions once they review the images, and one story was shared by a rancher who couldn't explain what their trail camera had captured. This trail camera was shared to various Bigfoot groups, and there were mixed reactions. Some said that what the rancher had captured didn't match any of the local wildlife, saying that it doesn't match a bear. Those within the group said that Bigfoot is one of the toughest cryptids to capture, so when examining these types of photographs people should remain skeptical, while others said that is a good example of Bigfoot, and that it doesn't match the typical wildlife that you'd expect to see on a trail camera. One person said the following: "This photograph matches the typical description of a Bigfoot. It has a large brow ridge that many eyewitnesses have described seeing, and it also has ape-like eyes. Contrary to what most people believe, Bigfoot doesn't have much hair on its face. Most people who have detailed their encounter have said the facial features are quite easy to make out in these creatures. I think this trail cam photo shows a genuine photograph of a Bigfoot." End quote. Others though argued that it looked more human, with one person saying that it could have been someone who just so happened to look into the trail camera, but most who have seen the image have said it doesn't look like a human's face. One of the problems with these types of photographs is that they get shared to online groups, but no one can provide any further details about the photographs. This has led some to suggest that the majority of these are hoaxes. However, not everyone believes this, and states that the majority of people who capture these cryptids wish to remain anonymous. Bigfoot holds the title as being one of the most famous cryptids. Cryptids are creatures that are not recognized by science, with amateur researchers saying that although scientists don't believe they exist, so many people have reported them that further studies need to be conducted. Bigfoot over time has been used to refer to an ancient legendary creature, a giant human ape-looking figure that's said to roam the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest. Over the years, thousands of people have come forward with their encounters, each one matching the previous witnesses. This in turn has caused some to think that there could be a giant undiscovered ape roaming our planet, and that it uses the thick forested regions to stay hidden. Scientists have claimed that the creature bearing resemblance to an ape is a human relative, which dates as far back as 15,000 years ago. Although all of this evidence and claims are yet to be proven, it's as if Bigfoot only selects a certain type of person to reveal itself to, because every scientific endeavour to prove their existence has ended up being a futile journey. There's also been a worrying amount of individuals that have gone missing in forested regions and national parks. Not only this, but individuals have claimed to have seen large humanoids and strange sounds while at these places, causing some to put forward the idea that they prefer to live in isolated places away from humans. Those that have seen Bigfoot have reported seeing footprints and even faces, which look like that of a human, but upon closer look at its features, it's evident that it's not a human. Another interesting photograph that was caught on a trail camera was shared back in May of 2020. The owner said they'd set up a motion camera, as they get a lot of wildlife near their home. He soon received a notification that his camera had captured something, but when he opened up the image he couldn't explain what he was looking at. He said that his camera takes 3 shots in bursts of 3 seconds. Interestingly, in the last image, a strange orb-like object can be seen close to a tree stump. The owner couldn't understand what this object was, and so sent the image into MUFON, which stands for the Mutual UFO Network. They're responsible for keeping a record of thousands of UFO sightings that get reported across the planet, and as of right now they haven't given us an answer for what the man captured. But that hasn't stopped amateur researchers from putting forward their theories. One individual said the following: "I find this photograph interesting as I've seen similar objects close to my property. I live out in Northern California and we have a lot of forests. I describe these objects as looking like balls of light. Every month or so I will see one out in the distance. They usually always give off a bright white colour. In some cases I've had them come close to my house and pulsate, almost as if they're inspecting around the property. This is still happening to this day, and I'm no closer to understanding what these objects are." End quote. Others who saw the image said it looked very similar to a UFO orb, with those that have researched this topic saying that these orbs are some of the most common UFOs that are witnessed. These glowing orbs come in a variety of different colours, ranging from blue, red, orange, yellow, pink, silver, green and black, and most people who have seen them have said they appear to pulsate. Eyewitnesses have said they make no noise, and are able to travel at extremely fast speeds. Some UFO researchers have said they've reminded them of drones. Interestingly, some have even said they can see a beam of light coming from the object. This is why it's being linked to a UFO, as various eyewitnesses have said that UFOs have this ability. Others have said though that it could be everyday wildlife, but some have said that doesn't explain the beam of light that can be seen. Nikola Tesla has been hailed as one of the greatest inventors to have ever lived. Though Tesla would go on to make headlines across many different news outlets for a number of breakthroughs and inventions, there were also a number of articles posted about him during his life that spoke of a far more peculiar side of him. At the time, his unique mind wasn't appreciated, and in some cases people even tried to brand him as a mystic, and someone who didn't know what he was talking about. However, these comments didn't stop him, and Nikola Tesla wasn't one to shy away from electricity and being able to harness it. One of his famous quotes was the following: "I have worked out a dynamic theory of gravity in all details and hope to give this to the world very soon." Nikola Tesla has impacted your life in one way or another. For example, electricity, radar, microwaves, the radio, drones and many other things all came from the great mind that was Nikola Tesla. Recently, the FBI has released 64 pages of unreleased documents, and these include things like paper and documents that were collected shortly after Tesla passed away. For many years now, theories have been floating around as to why Tesla's work was collected by the government. Some have said that Tesla's work wasn't important and wouldn't have had an impact on us, and that the ideas and inventions he was working on didn't work or were just made up. So if this was the case, why did the United States government quickly swoop in and collect his work shortly after he'd passed away? Tesla's work obviously caught the attention of the FBI, as they wanted to comb through what he'd been working on. One of the reasons for doing this was to ensure that any of his work didn't get into the wrong hands. For this reason, they decided it would be best if the documents remained in the property of the Office of Alien Property Custodian. This was, however, until the documents and other pieces of Tesla's work mysteriously disappeared after the war. Interestingly, enough discussion had been created that the public was aware of some of these alleged inventions, and it even caused citizens to question director J. Edgar Hoover about what Tesla had been working on. It's some of these extracts though that have caused many people to question why the government would look into this, and not only that but also keep it a secret. These are some excerpts from the official FBI documents that got released. This letter will not reach you in time to sight flying saucers over New York on the night of June 13th, from 10 PM to 1 AM, but there will again be full-scale operations of flying saucers over all American areas on July 1st. This will be in 3 phases as follows: New York areas July 1st 9 AM, Washington DC areas 9:25 a.m., General North American areas 9:25 a.m., Central American areas 9:30 a.m., South American areas 9:35 a.m. Second phases same areas as above, beginning at 12 midday July 1st. Third phase full-scale operations over all American areas beginning at 7 p.m. on the evening of July 1st. The above information has been supplied by George King, editor of Cosmic Voice, 88 The Drive Mansions, Fulham Road in London. Also, please note that George King has also published back issues of Cosmic Voice in one volume. This is beyond doubt the finest source of messages that we know of. George King is considered the best telepathic contact that the space people have, although George Van Tassel is the finest we have in America. Margaret Storm has been assigned to certain work with the space people. As follows, she is writing a book, a story of the life of Nicola Tesla, and the part his inventions will play in the new age. Much of the data for this book has been supplied to Mrs. Storm through transcripts received on the Tesla set, a radio-type machine invented by Tesla in 1938 for interplanetary communication. Tesla died in 1943, and his engineers did not build the Tesla set until after his death. It was placed in operation in 1950, and since that time the Tesla engineers had been in close touch with spaceships. The space people have visited the Tesla engineers many times, and have told us that Tesla was a Venetian, brought to this planet as a baby in 1856, and left with Mr. and Mrs. Tesla in a remote mountain province in what is now Yugoslavia. Mr. A. N. Spannell, 1136th Avenue, New York City, in a telephone conversation with the writer during the late evening of January 8, 1943, stated that Nikola Tesla, who is one of the world's outstanding scientists, particularly in the electrical field, and who had passed away on January 7, 1943, at the Hotel New Yorker where he maintained his residence, during his lifetime had conducted many experiments in connection with the wireless transmission of electrical power, and what is now commonly called the death ray. Mr. Spannell further stated that the notes and records of Tesla's experiments and formulae, together with designs of the machinery necessary to vitalize them, are among Tesla's personal effects, and that no steps have been taken to preserve them, or keep them from falling into the hands of people unfriendly to the war efforts in Allied nations. Spannell continued by saying that a distant relative of Tesla, a person who was intensely disliked by Tesla, and who came to the United States from Czechoslovakia within the past year, by the name of Sava Kosvanovich, is taking steps to get possessions of these important documents and plans. Mr. Spannell believes there's a strong likelihood of Sava making this material available to the enemy in the event he is successful. Spannell advised that he is in some kind of governmental work connection with the war effort, which caused him to spend about 5 days each week in the nation's capital, and because of the connections he has made in this capacity, he has seen fit to telephonically notify G2 headquarters in Washington, D.C., as well as Mr. Borkin of the Department of Justice in Washington. Spannell stated that Mr. Borkin advised him that he would immediately make the information available to the director of the FBI, and advised Spannell to lose no time in taking steps to see that Tesla's personal possessions were not disturbed. A few minutes after this conversation, Mr. Spannell had been in communication with Dr. De Lozondo, one of the advisors to Vice President Wallace. After talking with Lozado, he called back to Spannell and told him that the government was virtually interested in the effects of Tesla, particularly those dealing with the wireless transmission of electrical energy in the death ray, and for Spannell to lose no time in doing all he could to preserve them. End quote. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration have made some incredible discoveries in recent years. They've helped us to better understand the cosmos, and have inspired generations to look up to the stars. One of the great things about space and space exploration is that a number of cameras have been deployed, and this gives the general public a chance to view some of the most incredible sights our cosmos has to offer. Some of the most well-known ones are the cameras that can be found on the International Space Station, and also the SOHO, a spacecraft which is currently orbiting around our Sun, and that gives researchers a chance to monitor the Sun's behaviour. Interestingly though, in recent years people have managed to snap some interesting objects close to our Sun, leaving them confused as to what these huge objects could be. As mentioned, one place where these objects are commonly seen is that of NASA's HelioViewer project. This is used by NASA, other space agencies and the public to view the Sun, but recently UFO researchers have been using it as a way to try and spot unidentified flying objects. Developed as part of the European Space Agency's and NASA's HelioViewer project, the Solar Heliospheric Observatory allows anyone to view its entire library, and over the years has provided some incredible photographs of our Sun. However, every so often UFO researchers come forward and present some interesting images. Various websites have just posted an image which allegedly shows a giant cube-like object. They say that whatever this object is, it must be interested in our Sun, as it can be seen close to it every couple of weeks or so. This has only caused people to speculate about what this mysterious object is. Some put forward the idea that it may have been leaving our Sun, while others who have studied these objects have said they just hover around it, and they can be seen leaving the area at high speeds. One UFO researcher called Scott C. Waring was one of the first to post the images, and he believes that this large cube could possibly be a ship, and that in some cases he's even seen these cubes half buried in the Sun. So what is it that people are seeing? As of right now, UFO researchers have said they think these crafts are not of this world, and could be monitoring our planet and watching human civilization. Interestingly, those who have studied these anomalies have said there's two different types. You have this type that looks kind of transparent and cloaked, then the other version that looks like a giant black cube. UFO researchers have said the large transparent cubes has a kind of cloak on them, and this makes them harder to spot, whereas the black cubes aren't actually a cube, but were actually placed here by NASA in order to hide something behind it. Some have suggested that these giant cubes are hundreds of miles in length, and that perhaps we may share our Sun with these things. They go on to say that for years mysterious objects have been seen in and around our Sun. Those who have measured the objects say it ranges from being the size of planet Earth to being even bigger. This is why they rule out that it originates on Earth. One website that looks into these accounts is that of ET Database, and they've suggested in the past that these giant crafts have been over 20 times the size of planet Earth. ET Database has even said that large flares can be seen when these objects exit the Sun. Other UFO researchers have pointed out it's one of the best places to see UFOs. Interestingly, they say that different shaped crafts can be seen leaving our Sun, and that some of them even stick around for several hours before making a quick getaway. Due to this, amateur researchers have spent countless hours watching these live feeds, and looking through old images only to find the same shaped objects close to the Sun. One individual said the following about the anomalies seen close to the Sun. "I've been watching the SOHO cameras for years and I've seen some strange things. This most recent photo, however, is one of the best to come from SOHO, and I think it could be the real deal. For years now, these cameras have been capturing these angel-like crafts, and no one knows what they are. For the past 5 years they keep appearing at our Sun, and no one knows why." End quote. Others, however, are not so sure. They say the following: "If this was a real craft, it would be absolutely massive. No object could be that close to the Sun due to the heat it gives off." End quote. As of right now, UFO researchers think these crafts have been visiting our Sun for years, and even suggest they may be using it as some type of portal, or that the Sun could be a type of fueling station. NASA has provided an official explanation on their SOHO page. They say the following: "Ever since launch there's been a number of people who've claimed to have seen flying saucers and other objects in SOHO images, Although some of the supposed pictures of UFOs can seem quite intriguing, they've always turned out to have quite an ordinary cause when examined by experienced SOHO scientists. In recent days we've been receiving so many questions and claims that we'd like to set the record straight. We've never seen anything that even suggests that there's UFOs out there. In the past we've been accused of covering up UFO evidence when we present our explanations, and of refusing to comment or climbing up when we give up on somebody who won't accept our explanations. While we don't expect to convince everybody, we hope this page and links can provide some information for the curious who want to investigate the claims on their own. Most commonly, UFO claims are due to perfectly natural flaws or artifacts in our publicly available data. Some of the things that people are seeing are planets, cosmic rays, software glitches and debris." End quote. According to former NASA engineer James Olberg, he went on to say that these objects are just space dandruff floating around in front of cameras. When they appear in front of the cameras, they give off the effect that something much larger is there, when in reality what people are seeing has a natural origin. He said the following about the discoveries: "I've had enough experience with real spaceflight to realize that what's been seen in many videos is nothing beyond the norm, from fully mundane phenomena occurring in unearthly settings." End quote. So what do you guys make of these giant cubes that are often seen close to our sun? Do you think they're giant objects that are interested in our sun? Or do you think the cube is placed there to hide an object? Or do you believe that NASA are correct in what we're seeing is just processing errors? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comments section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.